Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to Dr. Dini and to all of my friends. My name is Rosmawati binti Muhyiddin from Group 5. Today, our group can presentation about the sexual orientation. Okay, let's see the introduction. Sexual orientation. Sexual orientation refer to an enduring pattern of emotional, romantic, and sexual attraction to men, women, or both sex. Sexual orientation also refer to a person's sense of identity based on those attraction, relate behavior, and membership in a community of others who share those attraction. So, sexual orientation is closely tied to the intimate personal relationship that need deeply felt need for love, attachment, and intimacy. From the biological perspective on sexual orientation, the heterosexual is mean having emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to member of the other sex, while homosexual means men who are attracted to men and women who are attracted to women have a homosexual orientation. That means gay or lesbian having emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to member of one own sex, and bisexual is having emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to both men and women.
Sebenarnya I tak nak komen banyak-banyak lah sebab because it's hak peribadi sendiri. Okay. Dia nak tukar tu disebab apa pun, niat apa pun kita tak tahu. Betul tak? Kan sebab dia kata dia want to human dia seorang perempuan and dia nak complicated is perempuan. Dia operate, dia cari duit, dia operate is tu hak dia. Itu antara dia dengan atas lah sebab pun dalam Al-Quran pun bila kita mengubah apa-apa pun, buat tatu sekali pun tak perlu pun kita nak buang tatu tersebut. Kita hanya cuma buat solat taubat je. Betul tak? So politik is biasalah, politik is manusia kan. Dia kadang they want to, orang kata, excited to be human, excited sebab orang nak pandang dia, orang tak nak diskriminasi dia. Tapi because bila dia buat cooperation pun, ICT tetap lelaki. Itu di Malaysia. Tapi kalau di luar negara, bila dia buat operation, ICT akan tulis is transgender. And ditukar pada transsexual. Transsexual, transgender is different. Transgender ni, dia mengubah identiti dia, jantina dia melalui pemikiran dia. Transsexual ni adalah dia mengubah dia mengubah dia punya alat kelamin dia daripada lelaki ke perempuan, is transsexual.
Okay, let's continue. So, our meeting session with client on 26 December on 2021 at 9:30 p.m. So we conduct the meeting session through by online Microsoft Teams. Our client name is Izara Elisa, 33 years old. So origin from Teluk Intan, Perak. So she's occupation is program manager. She involved in Persatuan Perlindungan Kasih or Perkasih. Below Malaysian AIDS Council, she focused to educate community in HIV/AIDS prevention education program and collaboration with health of department in Perak. Okay, let's see the timeline of client change. So in 18 years old, she involved activities transgender, and 20 years old, she looking for an identity and having sex activity and move out from family house. So at 21 years old, she using hormone pill, Jasmine and Mavlon, also injection. and 25 years old, she joins NGO Transgender as a volunteer in Pertubuhan Community Intan and joined the NGO fight to human rights with Suhakam. And 26 years old, she appointed as program manager in Perkasih, NGO that's run the HIV/AIDS program below Malaysian AIDS as Council. And 31st years old, she's stable in work and life. Okay, from the discussion, we look at the religious perspective of the client as a transgender. So the client admit that there is no problem with the appearance of woman. Client also does not practice religion, especially no prayer and no fasting. She also do not feel ashamed to meet the community. Client feel they have no problem in adapting to religious program organized by any department or association. The client also has an open mind towards religious belief. I mean, is a free thinker. So, client also claim to have good cooperation with the para-Islamic religious department, and the client feel that carrying a personality as transgender is not a major issue in moving on with life. And the last, the client considers sex orientation activity to be his own choice, and the client understand that the sins with altering the original physical occurrence. Okay, from the client perspective about the sexual orientation, homosexuality refer to attraction between people who are the same sex. People who are homosexual could refer to themselves as a gay or lesbian. And what is sexual orientation of transgender woman? Okay, for example, a client who is assigned male at birth and transition to female who is attracted to other men. Okay, what is their sexual orientation for her? Okay, for the answer is heterosexual. Okay, clinician label trans people as heterosexual or homosexual relative their sex assigned birth gender assignment. So transgender people usually label their sexual orientation using gender identity. Gender identity may an individual internal sense of what gender they are. For example, a transgender woman or person who is assigned male at birth and transition to female who is attracted to other women would be identified as a lesbian or gay woman. This is from American Psychological Association. Okay, this is my reflection from religion and human right perspective. So, the movement to human right for this group is a starting point from the guilt of modern Western civilization against the action taken by the Christian in the past that is before the era of the French Revolution. So, religion in the sense that is a moral law has no longer been named as the basis of their civilization, although it is true and still exploited by the secular. As a Muslim, I think Muslims should not repeat something that is already obvious. For example, by saying that Islam forbid homosexual or heterosexual practice, that is something that is too real and has even been established by the Al-Quran. Therefore, the way to deal with this great debate is with this question. Okay, where is the history of the training of Islamic civilization against Jews and homosexual or heterosexual who need a movement to uphold their human right. And homosexual or heterosexual now in a more dangerous situation with the existence of human right movement for LGBT. Okey, reflection based on Al-Quran, Allah say, dan kami juga telah mengutuskan Lut kepada kaumnya. Ingatlah tatkala dia berkata mereka, mengapa kamu mengerjakan perbuatan fahisyah itu yang belum pernah dilakukan oleh sesiapa pun di dunia ini sebelummu. Sesungguhnya kamu mendatangi lelaki untuk melampiaskan nafsumu kepada mereka, bukan kepada wanita. Malah kamu ini adalah kaum yang melampaui batas. Jawab kaumnya tidak lain hanya mengatakan, usirlah mereka, Lut dan para pengikutnya dari kotamu ini. Sesungguhnya mereka adalah orang-orang yang berpura-pura mensucikan diri. Surah Al-A'raf verses 18 to 82. The verses of Al-Quran clearly prove that the existence of the perverse group is accursed. This God has been born since the time of Prophet Lut alaihi salam. The group transgender people are also categorized as deviant and far from the law of life Islam. Okay, in my conclusion, is that transgender right movement in Malaysia is based on collective psych and a collective feeling of guilt for what they have done. Okay, in the issue is from the Suhakam in their article in 15 December 2021, the Commission is of the view that every Malaysian has fundamental right as enshrined in the Federal Constitution. Indeed, every Malaysian of various race and religion is protected under this situation. Similarly, for vulnerable groups such as lesbian, gay, transgender and intersex practitioner, their right include the right to life, move, be religious, get an education, own property, get health care and employment opportunities. So, after this, you can hear uh, what our client say uh, about the perspective to human right and religion.
Thank you, Puan Rosma. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to Dr. Dini Farhana and to all my friends. I will continue the presentation today discussing about principles and belief system of client as a transgender, family challenge, adaptation of client in family, and adaptation of client in community, and culturation. Okay, now let's see principles and belief system of client as a transgender. Okay, first they are experiencing a sense of incompetence in their gender biological role, getting hormones or surgery to change physical features to see masculine or feminine competitive with opposite sex. Third, the belief system in self-related masculinity or femininity, how role has been regarding gender. And four, willing to do anything to meet the needs of instinct. Okay, next, seeing human rights care as an absolute and has its own rights that must be protected. Do not take a story about the rejection of the community associate with various justification among others do not understand what they are going through. And the last one, they are so convinced that fate and fulfill their instincts are the license what they choose such a way of life. Okay, here we have short video from interview about challenge faced by client. Okay, let's see together.
I duduk dengan nenek dulu. And then lepas arwah nenek tak ada, baru I masuk dengan my punya family. So di situ macam kita hormat dia. And then lepas habis sekolah, I duduk kat luar. Because I kata kalau I duduk dengan mak bapak I tak boleh. Sebab I nak berhenti dia sebab memang I cakap I tak boleh sebab because yelah duduk dengan ayah lagi dengan adik-beradik for the things macam kita dah kita dia tak ada kompleks keluarga ke no, that cuma kita hormat diorang, kita tak nak bagi diorang rasa. Sekarang mak bapak ni seburuk mana anak, sejahat mana-mana dia akan terima. Cuma persepsi sekarang ni is orang sekeliling. Masyarakat sekeliling. Okey, kau apa ni, okey kalau kau transgender pun mak bapak terima because it's anak kau kan. And then bila mulut orang, anak kau kenapa macam tu? Kau tak ajar anak kau macam ni. You sebagai mak bapak mesti rasa tercabar. Honestly, betul tak?
Okay, for family challenge, according to the interview, the client initially lived with his grandmother. However, after his grandmother's death, the client lived with the original family and lived with his friends after 18. Family challenge happen when the surrounding community often question the change. The family still receive client openly until now and still remain interacting with client if uh, even they are not agree with client. Next content will be discussed is adaptation of clients in family. Adaptation of client in family. Okay, first, this behavior and feelings has been soaked and not highlighted since the client knows society and religion do not accept them. After the client ends SPM and start working, the client feels he has had the freedom to practice his life. Client out of the family house and rent with his friends. Then client slowly tried to make the family accept the change he made. Initially, the client introduced his eliminated friends to his parents. Then he often invites his friends to eat at his parents' home. It because he want to see how acceptance his parents. Okay, according to a client, he always explain what he feels and the feeling of femininity experience is not the thing to make. Therefore, respect even though some do not agree. And until now, his parents still receive the client very well. Before we go through about adaptation of client in community, okay, let's see a short video first.
Dia macam ni sebenarnya. Kita dah tahu kita ni orang kata kehidupan apa ni haiwan terancam kan. Kalau aku dah terancam, aku tak payahlah aku duduk kat tengah jalan. Confirm aku akan dipupus terus kan. So bagi I, bila kita ni macam kata haiwan terancam tu, haiwan hampir pupus. So kita pelan-pelan lah want to keluar, maksudnya kita kenal diri kita siapa. Is that, and then tak ada isu, jangan cari isu sebenarnya. Kau nak viral kan, bagi I kau nak viral, biar viral yang baik. Bagi masyarakat tahu siapa di community. Macam
Next, adaptation of client in community. Okay, from interview, the main idea from client is get to know yourself first and explore who are you. And the second idea, it does not raise issues that make the community look at the LGBT community. For example, do not upload news or stories that can defame at social media. For reflection, adaptation of client in community. First, LGBT is a practice that prohibited clearly, whether in Quran or Hadith, the recognition of the LGBT group and allows the marriage of fellow sex in society to confuse social life. Most Islamic also have to do the nature of human gender determination, such as aurat, marriage, nasab, fara'id, and others. These pro-LGBT parties are increasingly aggressive and appear openly defending LGBT action as the freedom to individuals and accepted in society. A family is a small unit in society, and rejection by the family reflects the community. Any the group who interface with the social norms will be rejected by society will occur sorting and where support is not provided. Social media certainly be the choice of LGBT groups to promote their agenda and build networks. Salzburg Academy on Media and Global Change, where LGBT use uh, social media facilities to form the acceptance of the world community on issues related to LGBT. Referring to the www.ranker.com website with the key top LGBT social networks, uh, uh, they have about 64 social sites are still actively used, and most social sites meet the definition of social media. It is used to share information, communicate, or interact with friends from within the country and abroad and develop the network. The study found that the increase in Malay percentage was recorded on the site www.onelovenet.com. The percentage of the Malay community profile in this social site recorded the highest percentage of 50.3% compared to others, according to KAMA 2015. This brief interview and study illustrate the background of these people to behavior, relationship with family and society. And the last, even though this behavior is rejected, efforts to help these people need to be there. Okay, that's all for my part today. Thank you for your attention. And I would like to invite Mr. Fatihi to continue our presentation today. Please welcome Mr. Fatihi.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and good morning to Dr. Dini and to all my friends. And first of all, thank you Cikgu Haiza and Puan Rosma for very clear explanation about the sexual orientation. My name is Ahmad Fatih Makhtar. My gender assignment is male, and my sexual orientation is heterosexual. Today, inshallah, I will focus on three sub-points. First, discrimination issue among LGBT people. Second, minority stress. And the third is sexual workers and HIV among LGBT people. Firstly, we discuss about clients' view on discrimination issue among LGBT clients. According to the client, discrimination and prejudice of society occur due to malicious perspective to LGBT as sinful acts, satu perbuatan dosa, especially among transgender group because they change their personality and appearance, so they get more tendency to be discriminated by society, get violence and difficulty to obtain job. Furthermore, community always gives pressure to them and give pressure to their parents and also to their family. Dan istilah yang digunakan klien untuk menggambarkan bagaimana mereka itu didiskriminasi, we are likely endangered species. spesies yang terancam, selalu di-abandoned and humiliated by community. However, in order to sustain in community, clients said that they as a LGBT group should respect other people and do not expose our lifestyle to media social. Regarding to my reflection on discrimination issue LGBT in Malaysia, we must explore about the status of LGBT in our country. As an identity of conservative nation with a Malay Muslim majority and the official state religion is Islam, homosexuality is very complex issue in our country. Furthermore, homosexuality is not only negatively viewed by society and public, but it also unrecognized by the law in Malaysia. For example, any person convicted of same-sex union or homosexual, they can be punished by act with imprisonment, fine, and also cane. Human Rights Watch 2015 stated that discrimination against LGBT people is pervasive in Malaysia. In addition, what are the views of our top leaders? For example, ex our Prime Minister, Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, when the reporters asked him about the LGBT, firmly he said that we are free to reject LGBT, and not only LGBT, also other unsuitable Western influence, because Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said Malaysia has its own culture and it cannot accept anything that contradicts its culture, tradition, and religions. So, uh, I want to conclude about discrimination issue in Malaysia again towards LGBT group. Brown et al. 2015 stated that in their journal, the minorities group of LGBT exists in the Malaysian community. However, they are left alone and ignored to overcome their own problems without the support from the society. Uh, One of the detrimental effects of discrimination is minority stress. So what is the minority stress means? Minority stress is additional stress experienced by members of marginalized groups because of prejudice, discrimination, stigma, rejection, lack of family support, and sometimes internalized stigma. One of the marginalized group is LGBT. Okay, so Mayor 2003 stated that minority stress will create a hostile and stressful social environment that can lead to cause serious mental health problem. So as a counselor, we must be responsible to be concerned on the minority stress problem among our LGBT client. When we ask our client about the stress problem among their groups, LGBT group, and my client agreed and say that they have a big problem and big challenge with the stress problem. LGBT minority group mainly receive discrimination will be mentally stress condition, especially what I said before, transgender, of course, because they expose uh, their appearance and their personality, so they get more stress and challenge compared to gay and lesbian people. So majority of them have problem with family, friend, workplace, and also societies. And in addition, some LGBT people have barriers to get treatment or related mental service due to feeling ashamed or think about rejection from the community. Regarding to my reflection about the minority stress issue among LGBT client, I quote from some studies. First, risk of psychiatric disorder among individuals with same-sex partners, homosexual, they have tendency to get experience more mental health disorder compared to heterosexual, such as major depressive disorder MDD, phobia, and also post-traumatic stress disorder PTSD. And other than that, homosexual people experience more emotional stress and were 2.5 times more likely to experience suicidal ideation and attempts. So, because of that, counselors need to have abilities and also knowledge in order to assess the mental examination status and discuss with client about their experience and plans to come out with their friend and family, so we can apply our mental status examination, and also we can apply back depression uh, inventory yang kita telah belajar di dalam counseling session with LGBT client. Okay, my dear friends, and my third sub point is about sexual workers and HIV issue. From the client perspective, clients say that due to discrimination and also prejudice of society, most LGBT people have difficulties to get jobs, and some of them come from low middle income family. Hence, they may become sexual workers to obtain money. Regarding to LGBT who have HIV, clients say that they should get treatment immediately because of HIV is common disease as diabetes mellitus or hypertension, so they just take medication daily to maintain healthy and avoid transmission of virus. Meanwhile, regarding to job opportunities, clients said that our government and also private sector supposed to open job opportunities to transgender people because most of them have good talent, commitment, and discipline in words. Okay, regarding to my reflection on this issue, sexual workers and HIV, first we look at Mayer et al. Study reported that homosexuals are significantly more likely to drink heavily than heterosexual individuals. Second, Ostro 2008, his finding in their study compare with the general population, gay, bisexual men, lesbian, and transgender individuals are more likely to use illegal drugs. Moreover, in fact, men who have sex with men, MSN, men sex men, are at an increased risk of HIV infection has been well documented. And the last about the STD, sexual transmitted disease such as syphilis or gonorrhea, they are more likely to occur at a high rate among sexual active gay men. In overall, I want to make reflection about the counselor challenge to deal with LGBT clients. Based on study by Jamal et al. 2018 stated that some counselors have constraint in aspect of value conflict. Kita akan berlaku conflict of value, nilai, konflik nilai whenever LGBT clients violated the values they hold as Muslim. Furthermore, conflict also exists when counselors and clients fail to achieve mutual agreement on counseling goals. And Mayer et al. 2003 suggests for the counselors, as a counselors, we should build positive rapport with client, and also we must create a safe environment for the sharing of sensitive information such sexual orientation and sexual behavior, because it can lead to more opportunities for the screening and monitoring of critical behavioral health indicators such as smoking status, alcohol, drug use, and also mental health problem. As a conclusion, LGBT often face social stigma, discrimination, prejudice, harassment, and violence. So as a result of these and other stresses, sexual minorities are at an increased risk for various behavioral health issues. So, American Psychological Association 2012 emphasized several important points must be concerned by counselors in the assessment and history taking. First, counselors should assess client sources of support, spirituality, history of violence or abuse, level of internalized homophobia, sexual history, sexual orientation, intimate partners, and high-risk behavior for HIV, STD, and also regarding to substance abuse among LGBT clients. That's all for my presentation for my part, and I hope you get some point about my presentation topics regarding to discrimination issue, minority stress, and also sexual workers and HIV issue among LGBT, and what are the important point for our rules and our responsibility to help them regarding to their problems. So in order to be a good and competent counselors, we need to have skill and technique to deal with them. So I invite Cikgu Hafiz will explain to us regarding to skill and technique, how to deal and how to cope with the LGBT client. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Thanks, Mr. Fatih, for the great presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to Dr. Dini Fahana and all my fellow friends. Today I will continue our group presentation with the set orientation. Okay, here is the content for of my presentation. First, how to improve the therapeutic environment for LGBT in attitude toward LGBT clients. How to improve the therapeutic environment for LGBT in relationship and family, and application in counseling session and conclusion. Before I continue with the presentation, let's watch our group interview video with the LGBT client.
First kali yang perlu you all adalah body language. Body language Body language important. Because kalau you tak suka, kita boleh nampak for your body language. Lepas tu bila dah jumpa tu, you janganlah buat soalan. Nak panggil apa abang, kakak ke motif. Orang tu dah perempuan. Takkan aku nak panggil apa. Macam pelik lah kan. Aku panggil kita. Kan. And then for the thing, yang question yang aku tanya, jadi dia macam ni. Soalan dia akan, macam mana boleh jadi macam ni? kan, dia cakap bila dia macam tu mungkin dia ada is macam tak pun tanya sis boleh tanya. Satu lagi bila you nak communicate dengan kerajaan dekat siapa pun kalau boleh jangan macam terlalu formal. Macam orang kata peguam dengan dia punya hakim ke kan macam formalnya macam kita pun diri kita pun kalau kita jumpa doktor terlalu formal pun I cakap yang paramedik kita tak akan cakap benda yang sepatutnya kita cakap ya tak ya betul tak?
Masa siasatan lah, masa siasatan polis.
Kan macam dia ni kenapa ni so for me better kita buat as friend macam datang macam bagi dia word is body language bagi dia selesa bagi dia keselesaan pada diri dia dulu. Kenalkan kita bincang dia memang dia dah makan ke okay, sihat ke cakap dengan dia and then macam mana hari ni okey ke kita tak payah terus topik dari situ kita dapat tahu yang dia tu okey ke tak for the thing sebab I pun banyak jumpa juga for the thing sebab I penjagaan syariah UX kita nak bagi tahu keputusan pada orang pun ketika kita tengok orang ni juga. Kita dapat result ujian saringan tu kita pun kena di counselling juga. Okey, apa ni ada dapat keputusan ni apa perlu buat, positif apa perlu buat, negatif apa perlu buat. Kalau positif you jangan tak payah nak relax je, tak payah nak ni sebab for me it's a friend. Kalau you sebagai counsellor jangan letakkan ketubah Jumaat di dalam kaunselor tersebut. For the thing jangan letakkan orang kata ceramah agama is that lah sebab because you sebagai counselor you want to counselling dia macam mana you want to handle diri dia betul tak? You want to macam nak kurangkan masalah dia bila kita bagi macam for the thing ceramah agama di ketubah Jumaat pula kan rasa macam pelik kat situ.
Okay, based on the short video of the interview, we have some guidelines that counselor may use to conduct and perform in counseling session with LGBT client. So how to improve the therapeutic environment for LGBT in attitude toward LGBT client are first guideline. Counselors strive to understand the effect of stigma, for example, prejudice, discrimination, and violence, and its various contextual manifestation in the life of LGBT people. The second guideline, counselor understand that LGBT orientation are not mental illness, and third guideline is counselor understand that same-sex attraction, feeling, and behavior are normal variants of human sexuality, and that effort to change sexual orientation have not been shown to be effective or safe. Okay, the fourth guideline for the counselor. Counselor are encouraged to recognize how their attitudes and knowledge about LGBT issues may be relevant to assessment and treatment and seek consultation or make appropriate referral when indicated. Guideline 5, counselors strive to recognize the unique experiences of LGBT individuals. And the last guideline may be used to counselor. Counselors strive to distinguish issue of sexual orientation from those of gender identity when working with LGBT clients. Okay, the next slide. How to improve the therapeutic environment for LGBT in relationship and family. First guideline for the counselor. Counselor strives to be knowledgeable about and respect the importance of LGBT relationship. And guidelines, second guidelines, counselors strive to understand the experiences and challenges faced by LGBT parents. The third guideline, how to improve the therapeutic environment for LGBT in relationship and family. The third guideline, counselor recognize that the families of LGBT people may include people who are not legally or biologically related. The fourth guideline, counselor strives to understand the way the ways in which a person LGBT orientation may have an impact on his or her family of origin and their relationship with that family of origin. Okay, to application in counseling session with the LGBT client, counselor or psychologist are those to understand this contextual factor in their assessment of what intervention are likely to be acceptable and effective, and how client evaluate the outcome of their therapy. The intervention psychologists or counselor are urged to consider are first increasing the client's sense of safety and reducing stress. The second, developing personal and social resources, and resolving residual trauma, and empowering the client to confront social stigma and discrimination when appropriate. Another application in consultation with LGBT client, maybe counselor strive to be knowledgeable about and respect the importance of LGBT relationship. Healthy sexual expression is generally taken to be an element of overall relationship satisfaction. So it is helpful for the counselor working with LGBT to be sanitized to and knowledgeable about common sexual practice and concern shared by LGBT, for example, sexual frequency, various form of sexual dysfunction, concern related to intimacy and desire. Uh, Counselor are encouraged to recognize that internalized heterosexism can complicate the development of healthy sexual relationship. To application in counseling session with LGBT client, counselor are encouraged to explore with LGBT client any issues and concern related to their family of origin and extended family. Counselor strive to understand the culturally specific risk of coming out to one's family of origin. For example, racial and ethnic minority families may fear losing the support of their community if they are open about having a LGBT child. In conclusion, there are many challenges faced by the counselor in handling cases involving sexuality. These sexually related cases are not easy for the counselor to handle since they involve instinct and human feelings. Therefore, counselor need a training and expert to handle LGBT client. Uh, this expertise and training are much needed so that counselor can further strength can further strengthen their skill and knowledge to deal with this type of cases. Counselor also need to be more prepared and open-minded. Early exposure is needed by increasing the organization of seminar so that counselor can handle these contemporary issues. Yeah, that's these references. And so that's all our group presentation. We hope this presentation can provide benefit and knowledge to be used to guide all of us. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.